Hello and welcome to Workplace at the River. My name is Joel and I'm part of the team at Workplace at the River. And I'd like to welcome you to our Thursday Biz Talk. Thanks for joining us this evening. We've got a very interesting speaker. So for those of you who have just joined us, welcome. Welcome to Workplace at the River. This is our Thursday Biz Talk. This week is going to be very different. Normally, the speaker would talk and then we open for a time of Q&A. But today is going to be different because what's going to happen is we're going to have a little interview with the speaker. So I'm going to be having a conversation with the speaker later. And it's as if all of you who are viewing are not just viewing, but are eavesdropping on my conversation today. So here's the thing. Feel free to drop your questions at the link. Sorry, not the link, but through our chat over Zoom. Post it to everyone so that all the moderators of this forum can see and all the hosts can see so that we can pick up your questions. So drop it there. Engage with us. If you like something that the speaker said or even something that I said, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, give us a like, say great job, thank you for doing this. You know, give us some encouragement so that we know you are there. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the speaker for today. He's none other than Malek Ali. He is the founder of BFM 89.9. That's what he's most famous for. But he's also currently the founder of Fire Life, an insurance company. And he'll be talking about this topic: is post-COVID a good time to start business? All right. So that is a very interesting question for many of us here. And even for myself, all right? So is it a good time to start a business? So let's hear from him, all right? Malek, are you there? All right. Yes, Malek, why don't you give us a wave and say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for spending your Thursday evening on the eve of a long weekend with me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, anything for you, anytime, Malek. You're very sought after speaker. Okay. So we're going to have a little conversation, a little discussion. So Malek, before we came on screen, he shared this little article, which incidentally was launched just today over LinkedIn. So maybe one of our co-hosts could help share that link. And you can access it. You can just check it out. But one of the things that he was saying, even in that link, was how his own dad was into the whole area of education. But because of the Japanese settlement, he left that whole profession eventually. But his dad said this, and I'll quote, okay, Malek. So give a man a fish, he'll eat for one day. Teach a man how to fish and he'll eat for the rest of his life. So it's all circling around the point of education, right? So I've got a question for you, Malek. How has this outlook of education that you've had and you know, this whole idea of how do you best educate others, how has this been shaped and how has it changed over the years?
Not completely consciously, Joel, but I guess as I look back, what I realized that my latter half of my, I guess, career as an entrepreneur, a lot of it has been in actually, you know, subconsciously in the education space, right? So starting out BFM, BFM is a business radio station, but it doesn't just educate about business and personal finance, but it also educates a little bit about current affairs. It talks about governance, politics, and even other areas. Like it educates also in health, health matters, even in music. There's also music education that goes on, and that's why probably a lot of I'm getting educated on music all the time on BFM because I some of them I don't even recognize, and there's education also on philosophy and so on. So I think BFM has been that I guess that education portion that has materialized, I think. So, and then now I've started a new organization called FI, which aims not just to, a lot of people think of it as an insurance distributor, but actually the real goal of FI is financial wellness. Is about us not worrying, having enough, being able to create a financial plan that makes us not worry, suffer any financial anxiety as we grow older, as we put our kids through school, and as we retire. So I think that there's also there's also in the education space is about our own personal education about finances, which we really never taught at school. You just have to figure it out by yourself, and through your mistakes and so on. So I find this thread of education becoming more prominent as I get older, and I guess it's like it's as I say, it's in my article I talk about a story arc. What's the story arc of my life so far? And I think it's moving towards education. So if I always say to all my team members, if I had one public vocation, not a entrepreneurial or private sector vocation, if I had one public sector vocation, what would I do? I would really try to figure out how can I make an impact on those 10,000 schools that we have in Malaysia, so that we teach our students how to fish, right? Rather, so that they can eat for the rest of their lives. So I think I just don't know. I know people who are trying to do it a school at a time, and I think that's fantastic. But I'm just trying to figure out how to get to those 10,000 schools. Haven't figured it out.
Thanks. It's okay. You've got time to think. I think in the rest of the next phase of your arc of your life, right? The story of your life, you'll figure it out. Yeah. So you've been talking a bit about education. So if I may ask, what is one area of education that you're passionate about, especially? So you talk about teaching people how to fish. So does it relate to finance only, or are you talking about other skills or something? But what is it that you're most passionate with regards to education?
Actually, what I'm doing in the finance side, what I'm doing on the BFM side, actually that's icing on the cake, right? But I think, as I said, I would love to be able to to be able to impact people in their formative years, right? I think by the time you go, a lot of people complain about graduates and so on, but let's look, before we complain on graduates, let's look about the process that they go through before they get to university. The formative years is all the way from preschool all the way till post university, right? So I think that's being if I wanted an area of focus, if we talked about education, I'll say it is those formative years. Those formative years as they transition from children to becoming young adults. I think that's the most important place where you can make the most impact. The teachers I remember, most of them are the ones that I remember from my age 11 onwards, right? Now, those are the teachers I remember the most, 11 till 18, and then and maybe university a bit. But the people who made an impact on your lives are all from my sort of teenager. Right? So yeah, I don't know how I'll get there, but I think but in the meantime, since I have no access, what we can I'll do my best in the sphere of media, which is continuing. And with media, for example, the only wish I have is being able to, right now we're only limited to the Klang Valley and podcasts and so on. But I would love to be able to reach out to Penang, reach out to Johor, reach out to Perak, reach out to Pahang, reach out to Sabah and Sarawak. So we haven't been able to get that, right? We haven't been able to get sort of the distribution or the frequencies to do those areas. So I find sometimes it's maybe we haven't been shouting loud enough. I think we've been shouting as much as we can, but we've just now limited the Klang Valley. So I guess that's one wish that I can do. The other wish is this, I guess, basically doing financial education and financial wellness education. So I think I can at least try to do my bit to get people to be financially independent and be able to not worry, about their futures. Right? So that's I think, whilst waiting for the bigger things, or whilst chipping away at some of those harder things. I can do some things within my control, which is FI, which actually stands for financial independence. So there we are.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that, Malek. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that part of your life. Maybe we can ask you something a little bit personal, something more related to you. So in terms of education, still on the vein of education. So for yourself, I mean, just looking at your LinkedIn profile, I mean, you can see the whole background that you've been through. So you're actually trained and you studied law, right? You've read law. So, but now you're doing a lot of things related to finance, even now with Life, financial independence, right? So what made you change your mind or move into such a different industry? What was that point of decision where you said, okay, I want to go into this area, or do you just stumble upon it?
So law was just something that my father wanted me to do. We do a lot of things for our parents, right? So my father was, he lost the opportunity of going to law school because when asked by colonial officers why he want to do law, he said to seek independence for Malaya and Singapore, right? So Mr. Ali, there's the door, right? So that's another. So he really wanted to do law. I said, Malek, why don't you do law? I said, Dad, for you, I'll do this, okay? But I'm really not interested in law. I'm interested in economics. But I did it, and it's fantastic. It's really useful. Actually, that's the most useful thing that I've done. I keep using it day after day. Contractually, there's that. Every day we see contracts, right? But my first love was always economics, not necessarily finance. I think my first love also was entrepreneurship. So business, actually, rather than finance. So I think I love the idea of creating products or services, and bringing it to market and let the market decide whether they like the services or not. That's my I guess my personal sort of passion, to see useful products and services, devising it, figuring it out, and then bring it to market and see what happens, right? So it worked with so I think it worked with radio. People all said that business can be dry, can be boring. Why don't you just do a music station? But I said, no, maybe there is something here. So that's a business radio station. I think I helped Mark Chang bring this something called online jobs, online recruitment to market as well, bringing it to market, saying, hey employers, these are new ways of you doing. These are new ways of hiring. Don't have to put advertisements in newspapers anymore. You can do that. So bringing that service to market, and now with Buy, doing the same thing as well, meaning bringing the ability to buy life insurance online without any intermediaries like agents who try to sell you, right? You can just figure it out. Just say, all right, I want 1 million ringgit. I want to buy life insurance policy. Here's a direct route. 15 minutes later, you got your 1 million ringgit policy. So that's again bringing this sort of service to market. Very hard, not easy. Everyone tells me, Malek, insurance is sold and not bought. I'm like, no. I can market. Insurance can be marketed, not necessarily sold. So it's about bringing products to market. That's my personal passion in sort of in the commercial and business arena.
All right, thanks, Malek. Yeah, I think with that, I think you've truly revolutionized the industry with BFM. Yeah, it plays good music, but it's more about the business, as well as Life, as you've just shared. Right. I just want to remind all of us, the viewers especially, go ahead and ask your questions, because if not, I'm gonna just conquer this whole time. I'm gonna take this whole time to ask Malek all the questions that I have in mind. Go ahead and feel free to ask all your questions in the chat. We'll pick it up as well. So Malek, earlier you're talking about something about business, and even in the icebreaker question, if there's one area of business, what would it be, and why? So if I were to ask you that question, in line of business, so you've been in media with BFM, you're in financial independence with Life now, basically both in under education, the big banner of education. But if there is an area or an industry that you always wanted to go in, what would it be?
I'm not sure there's always wanted to go in, but I guess if you're looking at it completely opportunistically, right? I mean, from a pure financial viewpoint, without thinking about your passion and this and that, right? I think there's some macro trends that are happening right now, right? One is sustainable electricity that's going to happen, electric cars. But what powers these things, right? What powers these things are batteries, right? So I guess, and anyone in going into batteries, I'm really, sort of, I'm keen. I follow the industry. I'm keen to see what happens to it. One day we're going to have a lot of, there's going to be so much sustainable sources, but you need to be able to like store it and store it and then use it at a later time. So I think that's one area, I guess, completely from an opportunistic basis, commercial basis. It has nothing to do with the heart, more the brain, right? Thinking, okay, this is the macro trend. This is, and it is a good trend. It is a good thing to do. Why, that might be an interesting area.
All right. Thanks, Malek. Okay, people want to know some of the things in your life. Maybe I'll ask this question, and then we can go from there. But in your experience in business ventures, what are some of your disappointments or your failures, or things that you maybe even regret going into, and what would you do differently from there?
So I think my first venture actually was no regrets, but it was difficult. It was, I think there's a question here about, it was at a low point. Yes, it was this was 1997, the Asian financial crisis. I had just started KL Classifieds, which was a classifieds a newspaper business. It was intended to be an internet classifieds eventually, but because internet was not so available at that time, I started a newspaper classifieds business. And newspaper classifieds depends on things like people transacting, buying, selling cars, buying, selling property, and so on. So I remember raising some money, starting this business, quite inexperienced. I don't, my cost structure was all wrong, because I just came from consulting, earning quite a high salary, and therefore I thought everyone earned high salaries. So my cost structure was really high. But started that business. But the worst thing about it was the fact that I started the business just as the Asian financial crisis hit, right? So we bought the paper, we bought the equipment, we bought the software, and then the financial crisis hit. So the thought was, okay, do we just junk everything, or do we at least try? So we tried for 1 year, but that didn't work out. So I guess it wasn't a regret. It was just like, I was learning everything on my own time. I was learning sales in my own time. I was learning how to manage people in my own time, and in an environment that was so like, almost like if you're a restaurant in the current environment, right? It's that kind of environment, and it was just baptism by fire, and I must say, coming back, I didn't learn much, because it was just the situation was so dire that you couldn't even try out something and kind of say, oh yeah, I learned something from that. Actually, it was so dire. I remember we raised 1.5 million ringgit or something, and our revenue for that whole 1 year was 17,000 ringgit, right? Crazy. So I had to fold up that venture fairly quickly after that. But hey, there's interesting, when certain doors close, certain doors open, and that's when I met Mark Chang, and I guess and the owner of the building you're in right now, Kayip, and then they got me in to sign up for Job Street, which was a fantastic exit, not exit, but a fantastic next step, right? So. Which would never have happened if I didn't start KL Classifieds. I would have never met Mark Chang if I didn't start KL Classifieds. So there's no nexus of communication between us, other than the fact that we both, at one point, ran a classifieds business, right? Then we met. So there you go.
Wow, thanks, Malek. I think that's very encouraging for many of us who, I think there's more questions that are coming in that have basically said, what are some of the low points in your business? How do you go through it when you were down? And well, you did say you were going through a baptism by fire, and you're learning everything on your own time, things like that. But it was a story of turnaround. I think this is a real story of turnaround. But as you rightly said, it wouldn't have been possible if you didn't meet people like Mark Chang and Kate. the one who owns this building as well. Okay, Malek, there's an interesting question here. So earlier you mentioned that you did law because you're just trying to please your dad. So how did you explain to him that Dad, I want to go into this industry. I'm passionate about economics and business. And how do you make that switch? And actually, I think it's something that many young adults, young people face today. So what would your advice be to these young people who want to change or go into a different arena or area from what their parents have set in mind for them to do?
Yeah. So negotiate, right? So I negotiated, right? Before I said, look, Dad, I'll do law. Fine. I think not a bad thing. It's nothing. He wanted me to do medicine as well. I said, look, I won't do medicine. I'll do law. So there's a negotiation there. But after I do law, if I can finance myself, I'll do my own thing. Okay. So you do that for them, and they think, yeah. You'll do it, and then you won't change direction. But then then one changes direction. So I think negotiate up front, right? See if you can do that. And that's what I did. I negotiated up front with the grant, and it worked out well in the end. I think, I would have been a very lousy lawyer. I'm so the opposite of risk averse, right? I'm risk on. That I would have been a terrible lawyer, counseling clients to go risk on. Cannot. I think my clients be sued left, right, and center. So yeah, and it was very real. The moment I stepped into, and I did do law firm. It's not. I mean, I did work for a law firm for a while, just to tread water whilst I applied for business school. And so that's when I sat down and did my business school applications. I had a target of going. Look, I need to supplement my legal education with a business education, and that's when I went off to do my MBA.
Wow, well, that's very encouraging as well. That so you negotiated. I think that's what most of us need more skills in as well. Talking to our parents and just negotiating something that will work out for both parties as well, right? Thanks for that. Malek, maybe you've talked about some of your disappointments and things that went down, went all right, but what are some business ventures that you are very proud of, that you are even grateful and thankful that you've started it, and maybe you can give us some of the whys behind that?
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest one actually must be BFM. I think it's a small band of 70 dedicated employees, and I think that 70 people actually has made quite a big impact, I think, on the Malaysian media scene, not just in terms of media as such, but in terms of thought leadership and so on. Not because we're thought leaders ourselves, but because we bring the thought leaders to talk at BFM in the same, so I think that is the thing. We're the amplifier of those guys, right? That are the thought leaders. And I think that to me is the big thing, because I remember the biggest feedback that I really took note of was this song. Someone wrote in about 4 years after we started and said, Malek, before you started BFM, I thought I was alone in thinking that why isn't anyone doing anything about corruption? Why isn't anyone doing anything about our education system? Why isn't anyone doing anything about our transportation system, right? And so on. I thought I was the only one thinking about these things. And when I heard other people talk about the same issues on BFM and they felt the same way, I felt like I was part of something bigger. I am not alone anymore. I had other people felt like me, so it gave me the confidence to talk about it and speak up about it. So I think that was the biggest revelation to me, the fact that we gave a sense of community to people who thought the same way about certain things, right? And I think this is really, and I know, for example, a lot of activists, people who are, for example, fighting for sort of the deaths in police custody, fighting for the rights of migrant workers. I think they were the real heroes, but we amplified them. We managed to bring them to a megaphone that spoke to at least the Klang Valley, and they could inspire other people to do their own thing, and they could find resources, and people will extend resources to them through BFM. So I think that's or at least give a helping hand, right? So I think that was, to me, the biggest contribution. The heroes were not really within us. I think that, but they were really outside. But we managed to give them a platform, give them a microphone that they can speak to the rest of Malaysia.
All right, thanks for that. Yeah, I like that phrase you said. You're the amplifiers of the thought leaders. I think indeed BFM has done a lot. Some of us we hear this phrase, right? Giving a voice to those that are voiceless, to those who are weak, who can't do anything. But you in BFM, through BFM, you've given the ones with a voice, a bigger voice, as you said, a megaphone even. And I think that is something that has really been a good thing, a great thing for everyone. We've got a couple more questions, maybe in the same vein of talking about business ventures that have gone well. What are some of the principles or even characters of yourself that you've stood by, and that you've seen that are tested, that are tried, that are true, that you would advise some of our viewers as well to practice?
Yeah. I think a big one for me in terms of just I think is authenticity, and it ties in a little bit with integrity in the sense of being, don't try to be someone who you're not, right? You can try to improve yourself and so on, but I guess in business, that authenticity is important. So in sense of if you are trying to sell your, get investors to sell yourself to investors and so on, there's no point trying to be someone who you're not, you aren't. So people can see through that right away. And I think it's important to just be yourself and just say, look, these are what the things are. These are the things that I'm good at. These are the things that I'm not good at. These are the things that I excel at, and these are the things that I need help with. I need, things. It's in fact, it's interesting. I remember there was a friend of mine. I think one of Elwin would know her. But so she shall name nameless. I think one of the your attendees know her. So I remember receiving her resume because she wanted me to forward it on someone. And interesting, in her resume, she said the following things. She said, "I am so and so. I am work best like this. I work best with someone as a pair. If I were to do this alone, this job alone, these are the areas which I will fall short on. But if I work as a pair with someone who does this, you will have the best, you will have my best potential. You will have take my best potential." So to me, that was just amazing, right? Here is someone asking you to recruit not just herself, but to recruit herself and someone else, right? Whether they're in the existing organization or not. So I think that was a big eye opener for me in terms of authenticity, and being able to, and to put your cards out there. And I guess very tied to that is integrity. I think in business, they say my word is my bond. I think so. Likewise, in business, your word is your bond, actually. So regardless of the paper that you're going to write in contracts afterwards, that is so important, because that reputational element will carry you either very, very far, or people will avoid you because they do not want to do business with you, because they know that your word is not your bond.
Thanks, Malek. Yeah. Indeed, your word is your bond. I think there's a saying, let your yes be yes and your no be no. But I think there are many people who tend to over-promise and under-deliver, and they just go in different ways. But I mean, Malek, I think you've shown us that having your word as your bond is still sustainable, is still workable. Having integrity in business is still something that is good for us to have. And yeah, thanks for that example that you've shared as well. but maybe more than just a character or inward skills and strengths. Do you have a certain structure? Do you have like a way that you organize your thoughts in how you do business? If you could share that aspect as well with us.
Hmm. Uh, I mean, there's all the MBA stuff, right? Which is like, like make sure that your market is big enough, because sometimes people kind of like look very narrowly on their business, and they don't do the numbers in terms of, hey, is this market big enough, for us to make a decent return or decent revenue so that we can get a decent return. So I think those are the analytics of it. But I think but mainly, I think more and more, to get you through the tough times, you really need to love the business, or be passionate about the business. If you don't love the business during good times, not a problem, right? Because there'll be money to be made, and you can take that money and spend it on other things that you do like or whatever, right? But I think if times like this during COVID-19, if you're really not interested in F&B, you're really not interested in food, you really will give up, right? It's only those who are absolutely passionate about it that will continue to do it and continue in that area. Those folks who are doing it just for the money will just, no, I'm going to close shop, do my own, do other things. So I think that's for me, that's the heart part, which is, if it really helps if you're passionate about the business that you're doing. It really helps if you are, if there's a reason for doing it, your own reason for doing it. It will come through in your, in the authenticity of it, right? Basically, when people say, I'm doing this business because I want to educate people, I'm doing this business because I want to, nourish people, it will come through.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. But I think the thing that you said earlier in terms of skills, getting an MBA definitely helped you out in terms of those skills.
Not necessarily,
as well, but as well as passion. So I guess you can say, being passionate about something, and knowing the reason why you do what you do. So I think that's a good reminder to many of us who are already in business, and also those of us who want to venture into a business, even now, post COVID-19. That you need to be passionate about it. You can't just go into it for the money. I mean, you can, but you need to have passion to go the long haul, right? So there's more questions about the whole area of entrepreneurship. How do we encourage and spur more entrepreneurial entrepreneurial spirit with the young adults? For example, actually for me myself, I studied business admin, majoring in entrepreneurship, but I've not even started a business yet. I've always been working for people. So how can we encourage the young adults, people who are even in universities now, to go into entrepreneurship, not to fear, not to worry about what's going to happen? Yeah, how can we encourage them?
Actually, you can't lead a horse. I mean, you can't lead a horse to water. I mean, you really, you can set up the conditions, but at the end of the day, the extent to which you view risk, how that impacts you, it really is very, very personal. I would never try to impose entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship education on people. All I can say is that here are some examples. And if you're scared by those examples, then it's probably not for you. But if you're excited by those examples, then this might be the thing. If someone looking at this, watching this video later, watching our webinar now, feels like, my gosh, I would never want to be in a place where I sell 70,000 ringgit worth of revenue. I have 7,000 worth of revenue, and I raise 1.5 million ringgit. 500,000 ringgit of which is of my own money. I never want to be in that position ever, and so that's fine, and that's completely okay. But there are those who are saying, actually, yeah, I do want, I'm passionate about this, and I think there's a business opportunity here. Then go for it. All we can make sure is that the conditions are good for that. Meaning that the conditions are good, meaning, okay, as I said, the education system, right? Meaning you have we have an education system that that this does not poo-poo entrepreneurship, but educates broadly so that you can, if you want to, get involved, right? You can education system that allows you to, use the fantastic potential of the internet to figure out what you want to start your business in, right? So I think I don't think you have to worry too much about an entrepreneurship education. All you have to worry about is education, and then people will self-sort themselves out into entrepreneurs, corporate guys, small business guys, retail guys. People will find their own will find their own water level, but the core is that we all must have that base education.
All right, yeah. I think education is key. Go for growth, right? So always be growing, always be learning. I'm just going to quote the late Steve Jobs here: "Stay hungry, stay foolish." Right. So I think that's the way Malek is talking about even today. So on this topic of education, maybe just some comments from you, Malek. What are some of the reform and if there's going to be a major change in our local Malaysian education system, what would it be, and what would the outcome look like?
It's a massive project. I think actually the best minds have been working on this. And actually, do you know, for example, that the head of the global education practice for McKinsey, one of the top management consulting firms in the world, sits in KL, right? He sits in KL, and he's advised the Ministry of Education on our national economic blueprint, right? National education blueprint, sorry. But I guess this is where, really what we need what I call a change manager, a change leader, to be able to do this. And I have not seen many change leaders in my life. I've seen 3 in my whole life, right? 2 of them are Malaysians. Maybe 4. Okay, so 1 Brit, 2 Malaysians, and all that, because it's people I work with, and I realize, my gosh, this person is a change manager, and so on. So I think we do not, to be honest, when I see GLCs, when I see the government, there are not many change managers out there. So we do need change managers. We do need people who can kind of like figure out, okay, out of these 10,000 schools, what do we do? Who do we focus on first? There are plans already. There've been plans to say, look, these are the schools that should be targeted. These are the other ways. The question is, if you have been brought up in a civil service environment, it's very hard for you to do this, simply because the culture of change is not encouraged, right? So it needs to be a lot of work from the outside, as well as getting buy-in from the inside. And I think there's buy-in already for us to reform the education system. And they need political backing in the sense of, like, hands off. Let's not let the just in the same way that in our health we hands off, we hands off the sort of the health advice. We left it to the DG of health. We didn't interfere as a minister of health. Well, at least initially yes, but then got backed off, right? But in the same way, we need the educationists to go in and support them and help them. They have 10,000 schools to reform. They have an administration system which is probably double the number of teachers. I think apparently the administration of our education system is more than the actual teachers that we have. That's crazy. You have a company. Imagine you have a company that has double the number of administrative staff versus the frontline staff. Crazy, right? So that's the kind of education reform we have to look at. It's a lot of those classic management tools. You pilot your projects. You have your low-hanging fruits. Tackle those. Devolve decision making. A lot of those classic change management stuff, which I think Malaysia does not have very much experience of. I mean, look at MAS, right? We've been trying to change manage MAS for God knows since Tajuddin Ramli days, right? And that's since 1997. That's 23 years ago. Not worked out very well so far.
Yeah, thanks for that. Interesting you brought up Mas, because somebody just dropped a comment. Pemandu Jala, I believe it's Idris Jala, was definitely a change manager. And in fact, he was with Mas for a season. And he turned around masks for that period of time. So I guess what Malek, you're saying, we need more change managers. We need more people who will be willing and at the forefront of this change that are happening, and willing to essentially hold the baton and will take any hit that will come. And as far as possible, the politicians need to stay out of it. But it's tough, right? Yeah. So I understand how it's becoming a very difficult and an uphill battle. But I believe all things are possible. So one step at a time, right?
Just to interrupt, Ralph, I actually, one of the two Malaysians that I know that can do that is, yes, you're right, it's Idris Jala. And he's wasted running Pemandu Associates, running around advising African countries, and and so on, and in Russia here and there. We need him back here. We need him back here to help us. I always thought that trying to run the whole civil service, trying to reform the whole civil service was just too big a task with Pemandu, right? Just too big to chew. But if we had focused him on education, I think we would have results by now. Sadly, I think we need to, if you're one, if in my mind you're one of two change managers in Malaysia, what is he doing overseas? He needs to be back home and helping out this, and apolitical, right? He's just there to do the job.
Yep, that's true. Thanks for your comments. We may invite him to speak as well, to hear his point of view, and the struggles and the successes that he's faced as well. But I refuse to comment. But it's quite interesting to know that, indeed, he's been a change manager. He's been someone who infects change on many of the policies, on many of the things that we do here in Malaysia, even in the KRAs, right? The NKRAs that he put into place. It's a very good thing that he has put together.
You should have him. You should have him on this session. I'll be the first person to watch.
All right. We will try and get him. I'm in touch with him, so we'll try and get him. Well, let's move to the crux of the talk today. So we're talking about post-COVID-19. So maybe Malek, you can give us some insight, some outlook, based on your wealth of experience. What are some of the industries, the business areas that look like they're going to thrive, that they're going to do well, that they are actually on the uptrend in this season as well? And what are some of them that maybe they look like they're going to slow down a little bit, may not be looking so well in the near future? What are some of them? If you can comment on that.
I guess I'm not a great crystal ball gazer. I think all of you have listed some in your icebreaker, have listed the kind of things that you thought were going to be great businesses going forward. And I Bob's your uncle, right? You believe that, go for it, right? But I think I can just give through some general principles. I guess the general principles are this: if you're only trying to start something because you lost your job, be careful. Because it's not if you lost your job and you're looking for something to do and to create, that's probably that's something out of necessity. And I know necessity brings invention, but necessity also sometimes brings up some foolishness. Don't spend your hard-earned savings trying to start something that just because you need to start something, right? That's one. Number two, to start a business around this time, we do need to have stamina in terms of financial resources, stamina to be able to last 2-3 years with very little revenue. I'll give you an example. When I had the newspaper classifieds, I didn't have stamina. I spent the 1.5 million that I raised within the first year. But in parallel, there was another company called Motor Trader that started around the same time and had the same principle. They were car classifieds, but they had stamina. They had they had the Auto Trader founder from UK joining up with my school friend called Philip Ng, and they both started Motor Trader Malaysia. And those guys had relatively deep pockets, right? I mean, you can, they had at least 10 million ringgit or 5 to 10 million ringgit that will make last 2-3 years. So they had that stamina. They had the financial stamina to be able to withstand this. So if you want to start a business around now, you need that financial stamina. If you don't have the financial stamina, you don't have access to it, or you don't know anyone who can give that to you, then it's a pretty risky time, because you don't know when that takeoff is going to happen. The Asian financial crisis, I think, after 1997, it really took till about 2003, 2004, about 6 years before things got back to normal, right? We struggled. The rest of us struggled for a long time after that. The third thing is that there are opportunities. I know some folks, for example, even in the F&B area, which you would have thought is a really tough area, but they couldn't get places. They could get choice places in shopping centers and pavilion. They can't get choice spots in pavilion. They can't get choice spots in Wanutama. My gosh! But then some people closed down during this crisis. So they suddenly are given an opportunity. Wow, here's a choice spot, best location or very good location that you can never get before. Pavilion would not even entertain you. But now, because of the COVID, now the opportunity arises, and that's when you make your bets. I think so. There are some opportunities like that, but make sure you have financial stamina.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. I think it's a good couple of pointers there. Let me just summarize it. Don't just go into something because you've lost your job. Basically, you need to have passion and interest, even in that area. Second, you need to have financial stamina, the resources, and to be able to last for the long haul. And there are still opportunities even in industries such as the F&B area, because there are many things that have just ballooned because of COVID-19, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I've got a question here. Okay, somebody PM'd me. For especially a young adult, what would your advice be for someone who hasn't discovered their passions, hasn't discovered their strengths, but they are currently working in the corporate world? How can they thrive in their career and go far in terms of experience and entrepreneurship?
Okay. One thing I wish I did more, and I was working for a consulting firm, firm called BCG, and I was working for them for 2 years, and then the analyst, right? The analyst, you look at spreadsheets, you look at businesses, you look at numbers. But I remember the alternative for me. I remember I was given the opportunity to say, Malek, instead of going to start your own business, why don't you stay back at BCG and become a case leader, right? A case leader is someone who interacts with clients, someone who is under the gun as far as the client's concerned. You are the guy who's supposed to deliver the product. You cannot shield behind anyone. You're the case leader, right? You're the project leader. You can't hide behind anyone. You are the one supposed to implement it. You're the one that interacts with the customer. And looking back, I think that is the kind of thing that I should have just stayed on for before going into an entrepreneurship role. Simply because then you're accountable for something. Whereas before I was only accountable for my own little piece of work. Here you're accountable for other people. You're accountable for the whole project. You're accountable for delivering the whole thing. So that kind of responsibility, I think, for young adults, get to that positions, try to get to those positions quickly. Get there, and if someone offers it to you, seize it, because it is something that you will grow, and you're growing on the company's time, right? You're not growing, you're not learning on your own time. You're learning on company's time. They're getting paid a salary to learn these amazing skills in life, right? About accountability to clients, managing client expectations, selling, and so on. And you're learning it you're being paid a salary whilst doing it. Don't be like me, right? I was learning that on my own time, right? And I don't think I even learned it fully by the time my first business collapsed. So that's my advice. Just go for areas of responsibility where the buck stops with you. And so that's I think that will prepare you for anything, not just entrepreneurship, but will prepare you for anything for the future.
Yeah, thanks. I think it'll prepare us for life, right? So learn to take on something that will make you accountable and responsible, and so that you are the one responsible to deliver that results. And I think a word for this is probably ownership, because once you own it, then it's on you, right? So whether it rises or falls, it's essentially on your shoulders. While you have a team to back you up, but it's on you. The buck stops at you, right?
And even if you fail, it's okay, right? Look, if you fail, what happens, right? You get moved. You're not the first choice for the next project, right? All right, not a problem. But at the end of the day, if it fails, and you learn from it, and the company learns from it, the company will pick up the slack, right? Your organization will if your organization is a great organization, they will pick up the slack, and not only that, they will go through with you what the issues were, right? And we'll try to say, okay, here are the pointers. Next time you do this, maybe you should try a different approach, and you learn, right? Those are, if you have a company like that, that adds to your experience. So yeah, we might fail along the way, but don't worry, it's still on company time. It's still not on your own time, and good companies will continue to invest in you.
All right, thanks, Malek. Yeah, you've been mentioning that a lot. Go on company time, not your own time, because your mistakes are not on yourself, but even on the company. So do that and learn as far as you can. All right, so thanks for that, Malek. We're running out of time. So with that, I asked Malek to just maybe, if you can just share some of words of wisdom, some nuggets of wisdom for all of us here, all the viewers and listeners today.
This to me is the worst part. I can only respond to stimuli. I think there's one particular one. I think a number of us, I think even at BFM and so on, are a bit concerned about what's happening in Malaysian politics, right? And I think what the concern is that I think a lot of us are getting a bit. We sense that a lot of us are getting a bit despondent about how what we thought was going to be, a certain government has changed, and now it seems as if politicians are really sort of doing it for themselves, really sort of looking out not for anyone else but themselves. But the realist in me says that has always been the case. Politicians have always looked out for themselves. So all I want us to have a think about is, as we go forward, is not to be too despondent. Certainly, your vote still counts. So if there ever is another election and so on, whoever you support, go out there and vote, because only then you can hold the politicians accountable. They've never been accountable to anyone in their lives. We've been accountable to our bosses, our companies, and so on. Their accountability is only to their immediate political masters and so on. I think so. Make them accountable to our vote, to our voices. Go out there, encourage our wider community to go out, and despite the sense of cloudiness and so on, go out there and still vote. I think that's really, really important. Maybe this year, maybe next year, we don't know, but please do that. Don't give up. Don't give up at all and just say, what's the point? Don't do that. Go out there and vote.
All right. Thank you very much, Malek. So I guess his advice for all of us is go and vote. All right. So, and you can make the politicians be accountable for all their actions. Thank you, Malek. We've run out of time for today. It's been great having this conversation with you, and really connecting with you and gaining from your experience. Thank you, all of you as well, the viewers who've participated. You dropped your questions and some comments as well. Thank you for that. Why don't we all appreciate Malek? If you can just drop him a like or a thumbs up, and just give him a clap. You can give him the virtual clap or a real clap. I think I'll give him the real clap here. But thank you, Malek. Thanks for taking your time to be with us this evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel.
Appreciate
most
it.
Welcome. Hope to see you again.
I'm gonna spend some time answering some questions on the chat group that is there. So for those of you who are asking questions, I'll continue to do this for the next 10 minutes or so. So don't sign off if you want to see the answers to the questions. Okay?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, thanks, Malek.
Right.
Yeah, as Malek just said, he'll be answering questions. So drop your questions via the chat, and I'm sure he'll be glad to answer them there as well. So once in a lifetime opportunity to be in touch with Malek, right? So without further ado, I just want to announce what's going to happen next week. So we've got our weekly Biz Talk. So next week, we've also got a very interesting speaker that's going to come online to join us. She's Rosalind. And she's with Sunfish Headway. She's the COO, but she's going to be talking about communication skills in the new era. As many of us would have realized, suddenly, literally overnight, many of us needed to work remotely, work from home, and we were doing our team discussions over Zoom, over whatever Hangout or Google Meets or whatever that have you. And she's going to talk about how do you communicate effectively and succinctly over these platforms as it becomes increasingly more important and more a part of our work life. So go ahead and sign up at the link that you see on screen. The link, the registration is already open right now, so you can go ahead and sign in as well. Also, in the following week, we're going to have a live talk. And these live talks are dealing with difficult issues pertaining to life. All right, so it's going to be some very interesting questions. So the link will be up soon over the weekend. Go ahead to tiny.cc/waterlifetalk and you can sign in. You can drop your details there and ensure you have a space for yourself. All right. Also, if you'd like to connect with us at the team here at Workplace at the River, so we're a very small team, but we love to empower the workplace. We love to connect with you and potentially connect you with other people in your industry and other industries around as well. So go ahead to tiny.cc/waterconnect, drop your contact details. Maybe you can say a few words about yourself and what you do and even how we could help you. That would be great. All right, so we've come to the end of this evening, the Biz Talk this evening. It's been my pleasure to host all of you and to join in this conversation with Malek. Thanks again, Malek, for joining us. And as he said, he's still answering questions. I can see him answering questions there over the chat. So go ahead and drop him your questions. But we've come to the end of our Biz Talk tonight. Thanks for having us. And it's been my pleasure to host you. My name is Joel. I'm part of the team at Workplace at the River. See you again next week. Bye-bye.